America is often celebrated as a melting pot, a vibrant tapestry of cultures, traditions, and identities. This multicultural ideal captivates imaginations worldwide, forming a cornerstone of the American narrative. However, beneath this perception lies a stark reality. Many regions exhibit limited racial diversity, creating environments where homogeneity prevails. In certain states, community structures remain overwhelmingly uniform, fostering atmospheres that can feel unwelcoming, particularly for Black individuals. This contrast between the vision of diversity and the lived experience of exclusion highlights a complex landscape shaped by historical legacies, social dynamics, and deeply ingrained biases. Many regions trace their roots to colonial times, when policies favored specific ethnic groups while marginalizing others. The legacy of segregation persists, influencing social interaction. The concentration of white residents can foster an insular atmosphere, making it difficult for Black individuals to feel accepted or safe. This isolation is not merely demographic, it permeates social and economic spheres. This video series explores the 10 whitest states in the U.S., examining how these demographics affect the experiences of those outside the dominant group. We will delve into community dynamics, social inequality, and the challenges that perpetuate division. Our investigation seeks to uncover why certain places maintain such racial homogeneity and its impact on Black residents and visitors. Join us as we venture into this exploration of America's most racially isolated states, revealing often unnoticed truths about the complexities of race and belonging. Examining racial dynamics in America requires focusing on states where whiteness predominates. The 10 states with the highest white populations offer vital insights into racial isolation and exclusion. Often these states boast populations where white residents constitute over 90%, including Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. Such demographics create environments that can feel alienating to those outside this majority. This overwhelming majority can foster social climates where Black individuals and minorities navigate unfamiliar, sometimes unwelcoming spaces. In these homogeneous settings, interactions are often shaped by unconscious biases. The scarcity of diverse cultural perspectives can hinder open dialogues about race and inclusion, potentially cultivating environments where stereotypes flourish unchallenged. This affects social interactions and professional prospects, potentially leaving Black individuals feeling isolated or marginalized. Homogeneity may inadvertently promote policies and practices that disadvantage minority groups, reinforcing existing disparities. Future segments will explore how these demographics shape the unique social challenges each state confronts. We will analyze statistical data and the lived experiences of Black residents and visitors, revealing how historical events have shaped contemporary dynamics. Understanding the characteristics of these predominantly white states allows us to comprehend the obstacles faced by those seeking acceptance in areas where they are significantly outnumbered. We will delve into specific instances of discrimination and resilience, offering a nuanced view of life in these states. Join us as we continue this essential discussion on race relations in America, uncovering the realities within these white areas and their impact on residents and visitors alike. We aim to foster a greater understanding of the complexities of race and identity in these unique American landscapes, encouraging dialogue and promoting inclusivity. To understand the racial dynamics in America's whitest states, we must first look at the historical context of segregation that laid the groundwork for these divisions. The legacies of colonial policies established a foundation for racial hierarchies that marginalized Black individuals and other people of color long before the formal policies of segregation took shape. During the era of colonization, laws were enacted that favored white settlers, institutionalizing systems that stripped indigenous populations and enslaved Africans of their rights. The resulting socio-economic structures solidified a racial divide that would persist for generations. As America expanded and evolved, so did these discriminatory practices, leading to more explicit forms of segregation embodied in Jim Crow laws after the Civil War. These laws enforced racial segregation in virtually every aspect of public life, from schools and transportation to housing and employment. They entrenched a culture of exclusion and discrimination that affected not only societal interactions, but also created deep-seated economic disparities that still resonate today. Additionally, redlining practices introduced in the 20th century further exacerbated these divisions. By denying mortgage loans to Black individuals or those living in racially integrated neighborhoods, banks and government agencies effectively locked entire communities out of opportunities for home ownership and wealth accumulation. This practice fostered environments where predominantly white neighborhoods thrived while Black neighborhoods suffered from neglect and disinvestment. As we examine these top 10 whitest states, it becomes clear that their current demographics are not merely a product of natural migration patterns, but are significantly shaped by these historical injustices. The enduring impact of segregation has created communities where diversity remains minimal, perpetuating cycles of exclusion that can feel insurmountable to those seeking to break through these barriers. Understanding this historical context is crucial as we explore how past injustices continue to influence experiences for Black residents and visitors today. Understanding the racial landscape of America's least diverse states requires examining their demographic makeup. White residents often form a significant majority, frequently surpassing 90% of the population. States like Maine and New Hampshire, for instance, exhibit figures nearing 95% white, resulting in limited racial diversity. This homogeneity contrasts sharply with the nation as a whole. Conversely, Black populations in these states are notably small, often around 1. This is a considerable difference from the national average, where Black individuals comprise approximately 13. Such an imbalance can foster environments where cultural variety is minimized, potentially leading to feelings of isolation for minority groups. The absence of diverse perspectives can impact various aspects of life, from social interactions to institutional practice. Other racial and ethnic minorities, including Hispanic, Asian, and indigenous communities, also have a limited presence in these predominantly white states. States such as Vermont and Wyoming report Hispanic or Latino populations of about 2% or less, illustrating a broader trend of limited racial diversity. This lack of representation can affect the visibility and influence of these communities. These demographics underscore a significant racial uniformity that shapes social interactions and community dynamics. With a disproportionate representation, societal norms and expectations may predominantly reflect those of the majority, potentially marginalizing the experiences of Black individuals and other minorities. This dynamic can lead to misunderstandings and a lack of inclusivity. As we delve deeper into these demographics, it's essential to recognize how they influence both personal relationships and systemic practices within these states. The scarcity of varied viewpoints can perpetuate biases and reinforce stereotypes, further complicating the lives of Black residents and visitors. Acknowledging this demographic reality is crucial as we explore the challenges faced by those seeking acceptance in these racially isolated communities and work towards fostering greater understanding and equity. In areas where white individuals constitute the majority, established community frameworks and prevailing social patterns significantly influence the interactions and opportunities available to Black residents. These relatively homogeneous settings can foster environments that, whether intentionally or not, present obstacles to those from different backgrounds. Social engagement within these communities can present unique difficulties. A relative lack of varied perspectives can inadvertently lead to misunderstandings and the manifestation of unconscious biases. Black individuals may find themselves navigating social landscapes where their unique experiences and identities are either overlooked or marginalized, potentially resulting in feelings of isolation and hindering their ability to forge strong community bonds. This can affect their ability to participate fully in community life. Economic opportunities may also be affected. Job markets in these areas often depend on established networks, creating challenges for Black individuals seeking entry or advancement. Educational disparities further exacerbate these issues, as resources are often disproportionately allocated to schools primarily serving white students, potentially limiting access and support for their Black peers. This can lead to discrepancies in academic achievement and future prospects. The distribution of vital resources, including healthcare, housing, and public services, can also reflect existing racial inequalities embedded within these community structures. For example, neighborhoods predominantly inhabited by white residents may benefit from better funded infrastructure and more comprehensive social services compared to areas with higher populations of Black residents or other minority groups. This disparity can impact health outcomes, housing quality, and overall quality of life. Examining these social structures reveals how they not only influence daily interactions, but also perpetuate systemic inequities that disproportionately affect Black individuals. By understanding the nuanced dynamics within these predominantly white spaces, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the challenges faced by those striving for acceptance and equality. In America's whitest states, Black residents and visitors navigate a landscape fraught with discrimination and exclusion. Personal accounts reveal the challenges of living and traveling in these predominantly white areas. Many describe feeling out of place in social situations, met with curiosity or suspicion rather than genuine acceptance. Exclusion from gatherings and community events fosters a sense of isolation, highlighting a palpable divide. This isn't merely anecdotal, statistics paint a similar picture. Surveys indicate that racial profiling remains a persistent issue. Black individuals frequently report experiencing heightened scrutiny in public spaces, such as stores and restaurants. A study revealed that a significant percentage feel they are treated with suspicion or hostility simply due to their race. These figures underscore systemic biases that contribute to feelings of alienation and marginalization. The impact extends to educational institutions, where Black students often face microaggressions and subtle biases that impede their academic journey. Many feel pressured to assimilate, struggling to maintain their cultural identity in environments where it is undervalued or misunderstood. This can lead to disengagement and a lack of adequate support, contributing to disparities in academic outcomes. Even travel becomes a source of anxiety. Potential Black visitors often express concerns about safety and acceptance, meticulously researching local demographics and attitudes before planning a trip. The weight of these considerations underscores the pervasive nature of racial bias and its impact on everyday life. These stories and statistics reveal a complex reality, a pattern of exclusion that extends beyond simple social interactions. They expose a deeper societal issue rooted in historical and ongoing racial dynamics. Acknowledging and addressing these issues is essential to fostering truly inclusive environments where all individuals feel welcome, safe, and valued, regardless of their race. The weight of racial isolation on Black individuals residing in largely white states cuts deep, shaping their psychological well-being and social interactions. The experience of being a minority, sometimes the sole Black person, in a community can cultivate a pervasive sense of alienation. This feeling is amplified by a lack of representation and comprehension, potentially devaluing or obscuring their cultural identity. Psychologically, this isolation can manifest as increased stress and anxiety. The constant navigation of environments where one feels like an outsider can trigger racial battle fatigue, an emotional exhaustion born from the daily grind of navigating racism and prejudice. Many report feeling compelled to code switch, adapting their behavior, speech, or presentation to blend in or avert unwanted attention, which slowly drains their emotional reserves. Socially, Black residents often struggle to forge authentic bonds within their neighborhood. The dominant white presence can erect social obstacles that hinder inclusion, leaving individuals feeling unsupported and detached. Encounters with microaggressions or blatant acts of exclusion can exacerbate these feelings, complicating their full participation in community affairs. The pursuit of acceptance can lead to social withdrawal, with many finding solace among other Black individuals or in online communities that offer affirmation and empathy. This is especially true in areas where historical prejudices linger, casting a long shadow on present-day interaction. Adapting to a predominantly white culture can present formidable hurdles. The pressure to conform to prevailing norms can feel stifling, compelling Black individuals to suppress facets of their identity to gain acceptance. This constant negotiation of self not only erodes their sense of belonging, but also bolsters the systemic frameworks that perpetuate racial divides. The lack of diverse perspectives in local leadership and institutions further compounds these challenges, hindering efforts to address systemic inequality. Examining these impacts reveals that the experiences of Black individuals in these predominantly white areas are defined by a struggle against alienation and a pursuit of acceptance. This underscores the pressing need for greater inclusivity and understanding throughout America's racial tapestry, requiring proactive measures to foster equity and belonging. In contemporary America, Black communities residing in predominantly white states grapple with significant social exclusion, a phenomenon that exacerbates racial divides across employment, education, and housing. These disparities impede individual advancement and reinforce deeply entrenched systemic inequalities rooted in historical injustices. Within the workplace, Black individuals frequently encounter obstacles to both initial employment and career progression. Data reveals disproportionately higher unemployment rates and diminished wages compared to their white counterparts. Prejudicial hiring practices persist as a significant concern. Research indicates that resumes bearing traditionally Black names receive fewer interview requests than those with typically white names, irrespective of equivalent qualification. These systemic inequities foster a professional landscape where Black employees struggle to establish themselves, limiting opportunities for upward mobility and financial security. Mentorship opportunities are also less available, further hindering advance. The education sector presents another arena where social exclusion is strikingly evident. Predominantly white states often exhibit disparities in school funding and resources, disproportionately affecting institutions serving Black students. Limited access to advanced coursework, extracurricular activities, and comprehensive educational support systems places Black students at a considerable disadvantage. This educational deficit can have enduring repercussions, impacting college enrollment and subsequent professional prospects. Housing inequalities further compound these challenges. Predominantly white areas frequently maintain restrictive zoning regulations that curtail affordable housing options for Black families. The enduring legacy of redlining perpetuates neighborhood segregation based on race and socioeconomic status, denying Black individuals equitable access to secure housing in thriving neighborhoods with ample resources. Examining these contemporary manifestations of social exclusion reveals their intricate connection to the historical backdrop of segregation and discrimination. The perpetuation of these disparities cultivates environments where Black residents experience marginalization and a sense of unwelcomeness, often contributing to cycles of poverty and disenfranchisement. Highlighting these current issues underscores the pressing need for policy reforms and community-driven initiatives aimed at dismantling barriers to equality and fostering genuine inclusion. Such efforts require a multifaceted approach, addressing systemic biases and promoting equitable opportunities across all sectors of society. The enduring racial homogeneity observed in specific American locales stems from intricate, interwoven factors encompassing economic prospects, migratory trends, and prevailing cultural sentiment. Historical context significantly molds the demographic composition of many predominantly white states. Economic dynamics often predetermine regional migration and residence. Industries concentrated in predominantly white states might emphasize sectors historically drawing white workers, leading to job markets where Black individuals encounter limited representation or feel excluded. Consequently, reduced economic incentives deter Black families from settling in these areas. Migration patterns reinforce existing demographic distribution. Individuals commonly gravitate toward regions with established familial or social connections, fostering enclaves mirroring their racial identity. This cycle impedes diversity, perceiving an area as predominantly white and potentially unwelcoming. Black individuals might relocate, seeking supportive communities elsewhere. Cultural perspectives wield considerable influence in maintaining racial boundaries. Certain predominantly white regions exhibit a mindset rooted in idealized, homogeneous pasts, often manifesting as resistance to demographic shifts. Such perspectives can translate into subtle biases and microaggressions, hindering the establishment of diversity within these communities. Furthermore, local governance regarding housing and education can solidify these patterns. Zoning regulations and economic initiatives favoring specific demographics can inadvertently perpetuate segregation, restricting opportunities for Black individuals and families aiming to integrate. Redlining, though officially outlawed, leaves lasting impacts on property values and neighborhood compositions. The cumulative effect limits housing options and reinforces existing segregation. Examining these factors reveals that racial homogeneity isn't a mere demographic anomaly but a consequence of systemic influences, perpetuating exclusion and sustaining societal division. Acknowledging these reasons is crucial for advancing inclusion and equity within America's multifaceted society. Addressing these deeply rooted issues requires comprehensive strategies that promote fair housing, equitable economic development, and inclusive community building. As we conclude our exploration of racial dynamics in America's whitest states, it is vital to recognize the existence of racial isolation and its profound impact on individuals and communities. The patterns we've examined reveal a pressing need for awareness and action. Many people may not fully grasp the depth of social exclusion that Black individuals face in predominantly white areas. By acknowledging these issues, we can foster a greater understanding of the systemic barriers that perpetuate inequality. These barriers are not merely historical remnants, but present-day realities that continue to shape social interactions, economic opportunities, and access to essential resources. Advocacy for inclusivity must begin on a local level. Individuals can challenge biases in their communities by engaging in open dialogues about race and diversity, encouraging discussions within schools, workplaces, and local organizations can help dismantle the stereotypes and misconceptions that fuel division. Additionally, supporting policies aimed at improving economic opportunities for marginalized groups can lead to more equitable outcomes. Moreover, it's crucial to uplift voices from underrepresented communities. Listening to the experiences of Black residents and other minorities enables us to understand their challenges and aspirations better. This empathy can drive collective efforts toward creating environments where everyone feels welcome and valued. Education plays a pivotal role in this movement. By promoting curricula that highlight diverse histories and perspectives, we can equip future generations with the understanding needed to foster a more inclusive society. The journey toward true inclusivity will take time and commitment from all of us. However, by taking small yet impactful steps, whether through advocacy, education, or simply being more aware, we can contribute to breaking down the barriers that divide us. Together, let's work towards a future where diversity is celebrated and all individuals are embraced as integral parts of the community fabric.